and both for being here. Thank you both, and thank you, Andrea, for your help.
No problem, and it is recording now.
Wonderful. So good mid-morning here from Los Angeles. It's a rainy day. We're super excited. I don't think it will impact the polls that much here. We have, what was that voting we were all talking about? It's early long-term voting. It's like 2 weeks you can vote. So voting centers are open. But we're also very excited to move ahead. If I get one more phone call from an unknown spam number, I'm going to flush my phone down the toilet. But anyway, I'm really excited to be here. I was just looking through the chat to see who is here and where. I see some New Jersey names, and I just wanted to shout out to New Jersey. I grew up in Morris County, so my mom still lives there. I always visit, and there's even though I've lived in Los Angeles for 30 years now, I'm still kind of a Jersey girl at heart, I think. But don't tell anybody here. My accent is long gone. Okay, so I'll have the chat open. Let me share my screen. I'll do it in just a second. So I've been working at Los Angeles Public Library for about, this is my 18-year anniversary. So I've worked in public-facing locations for most of my career. For the past 6 years, I've worked in what we call a coordinating office. And so at Los Angeles Public Library, what that means is that I mostly build and create system-wide programs around several initiatives. And the initiatives I'm responsible for are financial literacy, health. We call it Health Matters, but it's really like health literacy, government programs related to health. Anything government comes my way. I just did Section 8 workshops. I did all the census work for our library system. We also do our New Americans program, voting, citizenship. So that falls under my umbrella. It's called the Office of Civics and Community Services. And now I will see if I can share my screen. Sorry, I feel like I get confused with Google. We do Google Meets all the time, and that's where I get to just do a tab. And this wants to show my whole desktop, which you don't want to see. Let me see. Sorry about that. You'd think after 3 years of doing this, I'd be a pro. It's not going to let me be a pro. All right. I'm going to stop talking while I just close everything. Okay, so let me see if I can do this correctly. All right, apologies for that. I had a lot of windows open. All right, so the slideshow. I'm just going to go back in time. Okay, so this is the office I just introduced. It's the Office of Civics and Community Services. The program that I worked on as part of the library's Build Business cohort fell under my New Americans initiative. So just a little brief LAPL info. Here's our big building at Central Library. This is the building I work in. We have 72 branch locations plus a central library. Our operating budget is $241 million. We are celebrating 150 years of service to the city of Los Angeles in December. It's super exciting. The New Americans Initiative provides high-level wraparound services for immigrants. So you see a little screenshot of our website, but basically, starting in 2012, our institution developed a partnership with USCIS to provide immigration services for citizenship classes in many locations in our library system. We did that for several years. They were so successful that we developed an entire initiative based on the success and attendance in these citizenship classes. So that's the program that I manage. And we provide probably about 20 different kinds of immigration services via contractors and in many languages. So since this is not about New Americans, I'm not going to go too deep, but because we work in this space, immigrant integration is really a priority in the work. And in addition to achieving citizenship or preparing yourself for naturalization is helping immigrants be economically mobile. And so you can see our array of services here. And you sign up for things via our computer, you can call our message line. But in support of economic mobility for immigrant populations, we developed a Be a Successful Street Vendor program. So a few years ago, street vending finally became a legal thing to do in the city. But like most big municipalities, the legislation passed before cities were really prepared to actually support people in doing the work. What they were prepared to do was to ticket people for doing it incorrectly. So it was unfortunate, and there was a lot of media attention around, the celebration of legalization, and then simultaneously all of the tickets being given to vendors who were not ready to become the business owners that the city had just enabled them to become. So some of the barriers for vendors include a lack of literacy. There are probably around 50,000 vendors in the city of Los Angeles, primarily monolingual Spanish speakers with limited education, and Spanish may be their second language. So they may speak an indigenous language and then they learn Spanish. And so typically the work unit that is charged with education is also charged with enforcement. And that presents a really strange predicament. And frequently those people don't have the type of background that librarians have in centering community in their work. They're kind of get a charge and they move forward with it as good civil servants. So I just wanted to screen cap the website. So if you wanted at the bottom of the screen, you can see that's the actual web address for the street vendor. So the information is in Spanish and in English. I know that it's really awkward and strange to say I'm working with a very limited literacy population and I have so many words on this website. But really the website is for community members who support vendors and to direct them to the resources that are available on the website that are intended for them. In no shape or form did I presume most of the vendors would sit down and kind of like go through. So if you go to the website, you will see there is a lot of text information there. Part of launching a program in a large system like ours is helping staff scale and understand what we're doing. And so this is sort of our beta launch of the street vending program. So in March of, Megan maybe could correct me, but I believe it was like February of 2020, we received our notices that we were given the Google grant, ALA, for Libraries Build Business. And we all know what happened shortly after that. So we were given a lot of grace via Google. They were, in my opinion, the best funder ever. They were incredibly easy to work with and very flexible. And Megan was an amazing project manager to help a lot of library people who had a plan in place who then suddenly didn't. And that plan was attached to a grant. So it was really great that Google allowed a lot of freedom in reworking the grant. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but basically these are the nuts and bolts of the program that I developed. So it's mobile resources via CellEd, and we'll talk about CellEd in English and in Spanish. The units are accessible with a library card via smart or flip phone, but it's not required. We encourage the library card, of course, but it's not required. The learning units, which are 3 minutes long, focus on microenterprise and digital literacy. We also built what we call connected community and safety modules. Those are basically ways that vendors can learn about bystander intervention, de-escalation techniques, which are really valuable on the street. And the work was vendor and community sourced and tested. So what's really important for me to say out loud is where we started with this work and how I originally wrote the proposal was really focused on helping vendors understand the super complicated city processes. They have to have no less than 4 permits to do this work. It's a state seller's permit, it's a food vending permit, it's a merchandise permit, or maybe it's tied together. You have to have your business tax registration certificate. It's a lot. And it's a lot for a native English speaker. It's a lot for somebody who just wants to sell elote, corn on a stick, champurrado, a masa drink with chocolate. These are really not complicated things that people are selling from street carts, often prepackaged food. And just to clarify, a lot of people assume like taco carts. So if anyone's been to Los Angeles in this group, if you drive around the city, you don't see taco carts, you see taco tables. The taco setup is probably, 4 to 6, even 8, 8-foot tables that are set up on a sidewalk, and a very large sidewalk. So there's clearance for people to move around and cruise by and not violate ADA, but they're set up under tents. Taco setups are really much too big for carts. So our focus is on really the lowest entry point for any entrepreneur, which is selling, popsicles, corn, prepackaged bread items, bread, some hot drinks. So these are people who are focused in that space. And so we didn't focus on food trucks, which is a whole other thing, but already legal. And the taco tables really is going to be a next level thing for the city to try to address. But when we started doing this, we really wanted to help vendors, gosh, can we help it make it easier for them to do this? And I ran into just a lot of technical language and trying to figure out, like, you keep drilling down and simplifying and like, is this the right thing? And then I worked with a community partner who we kind of thought of this work together with. And basically after several meetings, we decided to, and also with the pandemic, we decided to really scratch things that weren't evergreen, that can be shifted. There's legislation that can go on, that actually has gone on since the start of this program, that has shifted the public health certificate that you need, that's the 4th one I didn't mention, which is a beast. So we're really glad we didn't embed those city processes. But my point is, like, we were really focused on, like, how can we make the city more simple for people? And we then flipped the narrative and we talked to the vendors directly. And we said, we'd like to do this thing and help you learn the things that you want to know to be better business owners, to be legal business owners, to not have to be in a place where you get tickets. But what are the things that you feel like you need to know? And that changed the whole project. Based on what the vendors let us know, we developed the content that I referred to in the previous slide with CellEd. And it was great. It was so wonderful. They were so invested. We ended up hiring vendor consultants for the project. And, I've worked in libraries for 18 years. I've never worked on a project where we've paid community members to have direct input into the content that they can use. And I feel very passionately about, a lot of the resources that we buy for business owners. We presume that the business owners have a level of education that in major cities, that's not what we see for our immigrant business owners. They're learning as they go, trial and error. They learn by going, asking a friend, going to a neighbor, and other organizations that are focused on supporting immigrant business owners, but why not the library? The last thing I want to direct a vendor is to a database, we have it in Spanish, presuming that they have the literacy level to, navigate college level Spanish. So we worked with a lot of partners, and these are who they are. So these are all LA-based partners. I'm sorry, did not speak, CellEd is not an LA-based partner. CellEd is based everywhere. They are all online. And I don't know if anyone here works with CellEd. CellEd is a fantastic partner. It is all learning on your phone. So it is 3-minute micro lessons. They are expensive, I will say that, but the state of California liked them so much, their Department of Social Services spent, I think it was over $1 million on units for digital literacy, which then we were able to incorporate into our pathway, because that also was something that the vendors surfaced that was really valuable for them to know. How to create an email. This is something that we can help them if they come into our facilities, but for people on the go whose primary objective is not always to go to a place unless they have to, because they're trying to make money and survive all the time, on the go learning is great. So we did reach out to the work unit that does the education and enforcement for vendors, because that is the city department where the work lives. One of their contractors developed recorded PowerPoints in English and in Spanish that people could listen over and over for instructions on, what the BTRC is, what the seller's permit is, how you get a food vending permit, how to work with LA County Public Health. And so that is something that someone with limited literacy could watch over and over again. And those are also posted on our website. They look like this. And the CellEd pathways. So CellEd, you can do it with a smart, or what we sometimes jokingly call a dumb phone, but just a phone that doesn't have really any text ability. You can do this with voice. And so they're micro lessons. So there are things that you can do on the go and not have them take so long that you're immersed in something when someone comes over and needs assistance. There's also coaching available through CellEd, which is really wonderful. And so you can download an app, you can use it on WhatsApp. We give people a PIN. That's what they can use with a card, without a card. And then there's a pathway that they can jump onto. So it's business, sales, and vending. And so these were the topics that the vendors surfaced that were really important to them. And I think that, we have one unit that is really focused on customer service and ESL. So learning English is a priority for them. They're still also trying to grasp complex Spanish, and they don't always have time to go to school. So Cell Ed does a lot of work with all of the lessons that we have are in 3rd to 5th grade Spanish. So even if when it is in Spanish, it's really at an appropriate literacy level for people who will not need it. And that's not everybody. Certainly there are people that I encountered in this work who had their high school degree from Mexico and Guatemala and El Salvador, but generally speaking, it's a low literacy population for all fluencies in multiple languages. And the internet skills were huge. Trying to encourage people to use cashless systems of pay is very challenging for generally what is an older crowd. But considering the violence on the streets, which has only been increasing, it's become more pressing and more on their radar that it's something that they should embrace. And so this is a super deep dive, but they had to talk about like pricing their items differently because now they have to pay taxes, but also learning that paying taxes gives you certain rights as a business owner. And it's a way to start a conversation with, say, city council representative, where you can say, I'm a taxpayer. And that helped them understand that while there are processes that they're unfamiliar with and maybe did not have to engage with before, that also gives them more standing to ask for assistance on the streets with their elected officials. And then we have a whole FAQs. So there are places where they can get one-on-one assistance for all those complex processes. So we wanted to make sure that we referred people. Calling the police sometimes doesn't always feel like the right thing to do for vendors. LA is a fairly, as I'm sure you all know, very progressive city. Our city police do not they really are not looking for people who do not have status. That's not really a concern for people who work in this city, but the county is a little bit different. We wanted to make sure that we provided vendors with information that they could use to support themselves when they felt that the police wasn't their first call. That said, I did a presentation to vendors at a police station in LA because they're working with vendors to help them practice, de-escalation. So, it's not always a fraught relationship, but we needed to be aware that it's not always been an easy thing. What happens in the county of Los Angeles, where they have that's where the county public health is, which is frequently the agency that confiscates vendors' equipment. So there's a lot of stress around those conversations where when DPH goes to take your equipment, they bring law enforcement to make sure that you don't try to stop them. So that's kind of how it works here. And we needed to be mindful of that. That was something that they talked a lot about how powerless they feel and how everything that they've worked for. Most vendors make between $20,000 and $30,000, if that, a year. So we're talking about really in Los Angeles, that's poverty. And so it's very, very difficult for them to lose equipment and to have it confiscated and to never see it again. That's everything to them. And because we were asking them so many questions about their experiences, we actually did provide access to therapy as part of the work that we did with them. And we had already used all of our grant money. We actually ended up using some city funding for that because it is really important to help. It was really important to help them feel supported. And it was very nominal. The agency mostly provides free therapy. But for many of them, this was the first time they even considered that their trauma and that their experiences made them candidates for that. So it was really great that they were able to engage with that. So at this time we've enrolled, so I haven't gotten my my last quarter report, we really launched in July. So we had 50 new enrollees, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're working with people where it's traveling by word of mouth, that's a great start. And then I don't know how many more people, and we are going to kind of, with some strategic planning, we're going to start growing our outreach for this work more aggressively. So we're really excited to share it more widely with the people it's directed to. And it's been very exciting. The feedback has been very positive, and the vendors were they were so grateful to be considered. It was, no one ever asked them what they thought about the work that they do or how they could be supported in this work. So it was, and I think that I've managed the immigration program for 6 years now in the city, and I'm married into a family of immigrants. So I feel like I have this on I live in a city which is a city of immigrants, but I have gone through Harwood training. Like I've done all these things, but I don't know if I've exercised them in a way that was so impactful, where me as a non-Spanish speaker, practice cultural humility every day in a room full of people, and not being able to understand everything that was going on, and making sure I always had to get translation and language support and really center their values and their needs ahead of the city and ahead of our own internal processes, and ahead of our own institution. I think, we spend a lot of money on databases that are not accessible for a large number of people that we serve. And I am eager to see if other libraries, other grants, other vendors are interested in providing resources that are more accessible for populations that come here and live here, who are so eager to work, but can't access a lot of the ways in which we provide those resources. So it was such a gift to be able to participate in this grant. And thank you for listening to my presentation. And if anyone have any questions?
Madeline, I don't know if you've seen in the chat, Rosalind has asked, when you say enrolled in the program, what does that mean? Is it signing up for CELED or something else?
Right. So a couple of slides ago, I can go back, or maybe I can't. To enroll in CELED.
Okay. So
So
it means enrolled in CELED.
Yeah, you just sign. So it's really easy. I mean, we had them, I think like once people feel intimidated, but once they see how easy it is, and they can also, WhatsApp, everyone Latin American countries use WhatsApp. So as long as you're like, you can use WhatsApp, they're like, awesome. So that's what I mean. Sorry, enrolled.
That's okay. I don't think I just hadn't connected those dots.
Okay. Yeah, CELED is really cool. They did present with me at annual last year in DC, not as a sales pitch, but more of like, I think they're a great learning company. Like I said, they're not inexpensive, but I don't think databases are inexpensive, and we also spend a lot of money on them. They've worked with African countries. They've worked with, different states in the United States. They're available in some libraries. I think they're more heavily used in California. Like all of the people that I worked with regularly were kind of based in California. But they're a global company. I do think I can't remember exactly what it's called, but they're that category of company that's like the good kind. I don't remember like it's C class or whatever.
B Corp. A B Corp.
Yeah, C Corp. Thank you. Yeah, they're good people, and I think they do good work, and they're very intentional. They have a lot of curriculum specialists behind the work they do, so they know what they're doing. Like, I mean, I was amazed. Like, people were like, "Oh my gosh, I have an email address for the first time," and I did it on my own. And you're like, "That's amazing!" Like, because you need an email for everything. And I went to a broadband thing in June. Megan was there. but they talked again about President Biden talking about, like making government more transparent and easy to work with. And I was like, when, every federal program is like requires computer usage. And so many people who benefit from those programs do not know how to use computers.
Mhm.
They can use their phones, and more people have smartphones more than ever, but it's still really frustrating. Oh, Multnomah is using CELED. Yay. Cool. Sorry, I was just looking at the comments. But yeah, I'm happy to connect anybody with people at CELED. Somebody won the Powerball in LA County. That's interesting. Okay.
Oh.
Nothing to do with my program. Cool. And I like that 100% agree about the databases. Thank you, Rosalind. It makes me crazy.
Right. I mean, the databases are very powerful when you know how to use them, but man, that's a big, tall barrier.
Yeah, I went to another session at ALA that was interesting, where it was a library. I want to say it was Spokane, but I don't know if it was Spokane County or city, or maybe they don't have both, but they basically like co-funded the purchase of like a venture capitalist database, which was kind of like a neat thing because it's like niche. And felt like, wow, users must be really invested in that product if they're co-buying it with a bunch of companies that couldn't afford to do it alone, because it's like that expensive. I feel like a lot of our databases are really underused in the public space. A lot. All right. Yes, I can talk to CELED and we can bring them to you. Happy to help with that.
Madeline, thank you so much and if folks, if you have any other questions, I think you're touching on the fact that you even provided therapy for the folks who were participating in this. You recognize this has been educational for me, and I greatly appreciate getting to talk with you outside of preparing, for this presentation. But I appreciate your presentation, you being here, willing to talk with us about this so much. Thank you. And I don't want to cut people off for asking questions, but please accept my gratitude.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I went on so long. And also Natalie, just really briefly, I've talked a lot about that at conferences. There's the Federal Register. So when USCIS or DHS releases things for public comment on the Federal Register, it's really important that people do comment, because those comments are used by litigators to fight for communities. So if you think that your voice doesn't matter on the Federal Register, it does matter. I hear that over and over again from our immigration partners. All right, I've consumed way too much of your time. Thank you so much. I'm gonna hang out and listen to Susan's, but and I'm happy to bring back or bring over CELED for our future meeting. All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, so it's back to Maine here, and we are having great weather, etc. So I am looking to share my screen. As you can see, talking to Madeline is so much fun. I work at the Thompson Public Library, and please, somebody let me know if you can see the screen. Yes.
Not yet. And I just dropped, not yet, Susan. I put some information about the Libraries Build Business initiative in the chat.
Okay, let's
in
do
the meantime.
this one. How's that?
There we go.
There we go.
Yes, perfect.
There you are. Okay. Perfect. Picking the right screen thing is, anyway. Technology is my friend. We have to keep saying that. So we're in Midcoast, Maine, and we are about half an hour from Portland and about 40 minutes from Augusta, which is the capital. So, and shout out to Lisa Shaw, who's there. Yay, Lisa, who also has been working very hard in as long as I've been here in Maine, and that's probably at least 20 years at this point. One of the things that started our process in the Libraries Build business, and also shout out to Megan Janicki, who's here too, is that that we have similar problems as other parts of the country. We're sort of a rural quasi bedroom community here in Topsom. So most people find employment elsewhere. And we were hit with lots of different economic and social issues. So the first idea for me about how to get moving on doing this kind of a program is to say to people, all right, okay, this is not working. I'm going to stop sharing for 2 seconds because I can't seem to move from this screen. Once again, let me try this one.
No worries at all, Susan.
Here we go. There, that's better. Okay, so okay, there we go. So we always start with, why do you do it? Why are we doing what we're doing at this point in our experience? And that just jumped again. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Can you see that? There we go. Why to do it? So everything starts with a mission, with our mission. Public libraries are the safe space in everybody's community. Public libraries are the places where we can meet each other and connect with each other and help each other in a, quiet, relaxed, and comfortable, almost anonymous way, which is a good thing for a lot of people. I realize that this is showing you the side of the screen as well, but I'm afraid if I move it, something weird will happen. So there are always needs. So basically, back to the why do you do it? We look at the mission. Well, Topsom Public Library is the access point for traditional and innovative services to meet informational, social, cultural needs of an evolving community. So that's our vision, that we're the access point. The mission is to provide what the community needs. So the question you're always asking to articulate and promote your work is, what does it mean for the community? Whatever it is a story time, a workforce development program, a book discussion group. Why is it important, and how do we accomplish it? So the needs are always there. When I came to Maine in 2005, the Brunswick Naval Air Station was closing. That's a local concern that was hitting this particular area very closely. When a naval air station closes, the surrounding community is affected because there's so many businesses that are there to serve the naval air station community and the military. So that when you shut down a base like that, there is a revitalization committee that comes into supports, but it's a big deal in a local community going from 12,000 people to 9,000 people in 10 minutes. So that's a local issue. In 2008, there was a stock market crash. It was a national issue. It was on top of our local issue, which was we were just getting out of being in the BRAC, or the Brunswick Naval Air Station, closing. 2015, there was a mini recession. And I just grabbed a quote from the New York Times. The pain was confined mostly to energy and agricultural sectors and to portions of the manufacturing economy that supply them with equipment. Well, hello, that's pretty much what we do here. And that's what this rural area is struggling with as well. And then 2020, the COVID crash and subsequent employment and unemployment issues were again national things. So as we try to respond to these issues that are hitting our local community as well as the nationwide community, we are trying to connect us to and connect the people that we serve to resources that are available. We had been doing some work for many years with the career centers in Maine, helping to assist newly unemployed in rebuilding careers and expanding entrepreneurial skills. And the state of Maine had a very strong workforce development support organizations that would come into, say, a factory that was closing down, and they would do sort of triage with people, helping them to figure out what was going to happen next. How do you do unemployment? How do you start looking for the next thing? And there are a lot of pieces, and I think that's what you find a lot in Madeline's presentation and in mine, and probably in your own neighborhoods, is that there are a lot of organizations that are doing good work, but nobody's connecting them together. And that, from my perspective, I felt was the role of a public library. So we decided that what we were going to do was facilitate connection in everything that we did. So we were going to provide tailored services that would connect people who came in with a problem and a question. We would support knowledgeable staff. So we would make sure that our librarians, all of our staff members, were aware that there was a resource available for pretty much every problem that you have. But specifically with the Chamber of Commerce and the career centers, finding out what they did, when they did it, how they did it helped a lot. And then the last thing we were hoping to be able to do is find a way to connect entrepreneurs with local grant opportunities and some financial assistance, getting a small or micro loan, business loan. And so that was sort of our overriding mission, to connect people to these items. So in 2005, when we had the Brunswick Naval Air Station close, what we were doing then was doing a job information center. We created an area in the library that had books about jobs and careers, alternative help you with your resume writing skills. Many people were completely had the resume writing thing was a completely foreign concept to them. In many ways, similar to talking to people who come from a different country or a different culture and have a different language. The rural communities have a different language too. I mean, you get your job by knowing, Joe Smith and his father, and he's got a friend who knows a friend who's got a place in there. So again, trying to get back to to something that could assist people who are used to doing things on their own independently was the big push at that point. Get local questions, local resources. So that was our first stab at supporting workforce development. After that, we realized that when we were connecting with people, connecting with other organizations and finding out what was going on, that we could present a program to show people that in their neighborhood who are doing the kind of work that people are looking for. For instance, the Topsom Development Incorporated is another not-for-profit organization who is affiliated with the town. Local entrepreneurs talked together in an event here at our library about what it takes to start a business and how to get help and where to go and how to come to the library and be a part of that. So that was one of our programs. So when I saw the information about the ALA and Google Grant Libraries Build Business, I thought, well, this is a natural progression going on to do something more to connect particularly rural underserved populations. That's one of the provisos of the grant, and women and minority owned. So what we had planned on doing was creating a bigger business support program that would allow people to come in and get individual help with individual questions and problems, and then connect them with businesses and provide expertise and basically mentors for people who were starting business. So the pandemic happened. And so we had to shift as everybody did. And essentially, I echo what Madeline has been saying all along. People can't connect if they don't have the skill sets. So one of the things, we had been working with career centers over a period of time, but we started connecting with career centers and saying to them, what do you need? What could we do at the library to assist people? Can we have a program? Can we do this? Can we do that? Most of the career center professionals were saying to us, teach them how to use a computer, because they don't know how to use computers. And it's too hard for them to get this kind of one-on-one support that they need if they're not able to get on Zoom, to get on a laptop, to even have a laptop available. So what we did in this, basically starting in July after the pandemic started, so the pandemic is March and July, we started opening the building for limited numbers of people. And we got a Zoom connection with the career centers. And I worked with the career support people there, their professionals, their counselors. We created from a little tiny room in the corner of the library, a small literacy study room, an area where people could go, and there was a laptop there, the Zoom account was there, they had a small space there to write and headphones if you needed the headphones, and we set up a Zoom meeting with them. So they were meeting through the library with someone from the career center who they couldn't get to because they were closed and they couldn't get in. So we were there to be the extra professional help, so if the connection didn't go well or dropped or something, we could fix that. And we had people who were really embarrassed and very freaked out and didn't know what to do because of the pandemic, and they wanted to do something different. They had no way of figuring out what to do next. And so when we started to publicize this, we all of a sudden had a whole lot of people who wanted to just come in and talk to somebody from the career center and to assist them. We've got 4 people who have gotten actual jobs from this, 1 year's worth of activities. And the other thing that happened was that, and something we didn't expect, was that other libraries heard about it and wanted to be a part of it. So part of what we ended up doing was connecting not only with the career centers who are across the state of Maine, but also with other libraries who are in those similar areas. By the time we were finished last June, we had 8 libraries who had connections just like mine, just a laptop and a Zoom account and a small space where they could be counseled and supported. And the libraries were the ones that were the connectors for them. part of our I think focus has been on partnerships and how we can partner with other people. Obviously, we can't do any of this alone. There's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel. So going out into the community and finding who to partner with, how to partner, and figuring out, what's a win-win for everybody else. So with a partnership, you have to be very clear about understanding and articulating what the needs are that you are trying to support, and what you need, and whether it will support the mission of both the partner and the library. So sometimes it's money, sometimes it's stuff, sometimes it's a support for the mission, just having extra bodies and extra people to do work with individuals. And then how we share that information to the communities so that other partners start thinking about, oh, hey, is it possible for me to jump in and be a part of workforce development at the Thompson Public Library or your own public library? And then appreciating those new ideas, the new directions that's possible that you can be pushed toward. So everybody can connect. So that's part of our strategy has been, all right, so we're going to have library staff and administration all be on the same page about the mission. We'll get the Friends of the Library to support some of the monetary needs that we are going to have. We're going to look for outside funders who can help support. Google was a dream to work with. Google and ALA together really were very supportive of trying new and different things. Going out to community members and finding individual business owners who would be willing to come in and talk or to be a sounding board for an individual. These are all things that we can do. Creating partnerships with the career centers, with Thompson Development Incorporated, with New Ventures Maine, and other organizations. Then our trustees obviously are the governing board here. And so, they need to know why we're doing it, what we're doing, and how we're doing it. This is how you, how we've been, focusing and moving ahead. And things go beautifully, and things were going beautifully. And then we need to regroup, because every once in a while, you're going to need to figure out what to do when somebody else can't do it anymore. For instance, Friends of the Thompson Library wanted to focus on programs for kids. So their funding and their mission changed. They wanted to sort of pull back a little bit from workforce. The grant funding runs out. Do we have enough to sustain ourselves? Have you got somebody else in the wings to help assist or to transform and rejigger your program in some way? And then finding new connections, asking for help, asking for advice. So currently we partner with the Libraries Build Business. We have the Bath Brunswick Regional Chamber of Commerce that we're working with, Thompson Development Inc., the career centers, and Lisa mentioned in one of the chat boxes there something about Bendable Maine. Bendable Maine is a new product that has been being developed through the state, but we've also been able to connect some of our career resources and pull that information down for other for the people that are in our communities and show them how to move forward on it. So we're always trying to shift, change, figure out what it is and how to do it. And one of the issues that I had in the beginning was this idea of measuring and evaluating your program, because that's a real concern for many funders, for many organizations, wanting to say, okay, so it's a great program, people like it, but how do you know? So the measurement and evaluation through that we worked with together through the whole cohort. And I'm going to bring down one more slide here, maybe. There it is. These are the library's built business resources starting from the ALA website. And this is the listing of the libraries and where they have been and what they did. There were 13 of us to begin this program. And so what we've been able to do is to look at what's happening in another place and figure out, okay, how could I adapt that? How could I add that to what I was doing? When I first met Madeline, I thought to myself, well, we have nothing in common. Our programs are so completely different. It turns out that Madeline and I had the same issues, the same problems, the same connections, starting to go in one direction, then finding out that we needed to go in a different direction, speaking the language, etc. And so those are the kinds of things that that help us to share the resources that we each have pulled together. There are some great projects, and if you look on the ALA Advocacy for Workforce grant, you will see that there. There's also a case study of the Thompson Public Library talking about how to use information that you get from evaluating your program using project outcome, and along with our regular statistical information that we're always, pulling for annual reports, etc. And it adds a layer to the issues that we see, and really speaks to the funders, the people who need the information, need to know why it's important. And so that's one of the things that's been helpful here. So thank you for putting up with the strange technology. We keep trying to work on that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I had not been able to look at the chat while I was doing what I was doing. So.
Thank you, Susan. There was one question that came up about, well, what does, and Meg, you may have to help clarify what this looks like now, and then also a question about national digital equity.
So the question was, you were showing your small little table with your
Right.
laptop, et cetera, and that was what you had set up during COVID. And so now, what does that look like? Are you still connecting in this? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. Now it is still there for people who, if they want to and choose to, want to jump in there. We also have once a week a person from the career centers who basically is setting up a mini career center in the library for drop-ins. And tonight we're having a full program for people from 6 to 7, which is just sort of this is what we can do for you. This is what career centers will do. If you have a question, how do you connect through your library and into the career centers modes? So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then another question, speaking of partnerships, have you worked with the National Digital Equity Center, which is based in Maine, on your digital literacy initiatives?
We have not directly. My guess is that they are very involved. Lisa might be able to tell us a little bit more about that. I do know that working with the state library, we are able to connect to so many other government sources for support, as well as other libraries. And what we're trying to do is create sort of a one-stop shop so people can get direction, you know. American Job Center called in Maine. Lisa, do you know?
Yeah, those are the career centers.
Those are the
That's
career
how they're
centers.
that's how they're
Okay.
marketed. And it's just super confusing because that's what the military recruitment places call theirs too.
Yeah, right. So, yeah. So what the question that's here right now about what sort of things did you use for measurement and evaluation? We use, if you haven't used Project Outcome, it's a PLA and a research-based program that offers specific questions. How did the program or the activity that you did affect you in your life? Can you use some of the information that you were given in this program to move forward with things? And so you connect those comments and the thoughts about, you know, how this program affected you to your statistical information. And when you can do that, you can really paint a picture and look at the statistical numbers. I don't know if your libraries do a snapshot day, for instance, a library snapshot day. We've done one recently through the state of Maine, where, you know, we just took the statistics for one day and then broke it up and for individual libraries to say, all right, in one day in Topsom, 56 people came to a program, 40 people checked their email in the library. And then so you have these stories that then you can add statistical information. So it costs, you know, like at the Topsom Library, for instance, it costs the town you know, $20 for each member citizen in the town to get library service. Well, what is that $20 give you? Well, it gives you $60 worth of value when you look at how many people have used things, what it would cost to do it on your own. And the same thing with the careers centers. You can't always measure the effect and the individual support that you can give through a number. But with a program, you can bring those numbers and the stories together.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else have questions? I've gotten a lot of information today, so thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for that in the chat too. Yes.
I would also suggest that when you look at the if you look at the ALA site, that you click on the link that says to join the Slack channel. Megan Janicki, who's here today, is the one who's basically helping keep that going along with the members of our cohort. But it's a great place to just go in if you want to talk about how you're reaching out to people, what it's like, what are the issues, what are the pitfalls. Click in there and Megan will get you set up to be a member of the Slack channel. We continue to do programming there just for to continue our own work as well.
Thank you. And yes, also about Measures That Matter, they presented last month, and I believe that meeting was recorded. So thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
and Susan. Any other questions, folks? We've got about 15 minutes left, and unless you have other questions, we can get into a little bit early. I do want to let folks know that we will be meeting again next month. And can somebody remind me? I'm trying to remember what our next, I think it's Dr. Africa Hands is speaking. So
Yes,
please join us
that's
again
who it
next
is.
month. Go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, it's Dr. Africa Hands, and she's talking about her research. I don't have it in front of me, but I know it has to do with college attainment in rural communities. So that's on December 8th. No, that's not correct. December, the first Tuesday in, no, second Tuesday in December.
I think it's the
The
13th.
13th.
There we go.
Thank you all again for being here, and thank you, Andrea, for convening and providing the technical